Let's talk about Instagram teen accounts. Our kids want to be on social media, but as parents, we desperately want to protect them in their online access and especially on social media. Now, up to this point, the problem is tech companies have not given us as parents many tools to be able to monitor and control our kids' access to social media. We've been limited to things like Apple screen time, with being able to either completely block the social media category or block individual social media apps, or to set time limits for specific apps or social media category. But Instagram now has teen accounts that allow parents to have more granular control over what their kids can do on Instagram. So let's talk about that today. I'm going to walk you through the 3 steps for how to set up monitoring using Instagram teen accounts. Now, it's never been more imperative as parents to protect our kids. The stakes have never been higher. There's more and more reports of kids being harmed by social media, whether it's mental health harm or body image harm or actual physical harm by via people and things that they're communicating with on these platforms. Now, settings for Instagram teen accounts aren't perfect by any means. They're not going to be able to do everything that every parent's going to want them to do to protect your kids on social media. However, they are a step in the right direction, and I really want to see more tech companies following in this direction. All right, so the first step is that your teen is going to need an Instagram account. Now, Instagram designs their teen accounts for ages 13 through 17. And per their own policies, you have to be at least 13 years old to set up an account with Instagram. Now, if your teen already has an account with Instagram, you'll want to assist them in verifying that their date of birth is set up correctly, because the teen account is specific to the date of birth. If they don't yet have an Instagram account, you can help them with setting one up, although they'll have to be the one to create it themselves through Instagram site. And you can just make sure that they put in the correct date of birth when they sign up for that account. Now, also as part of this, you as a parent will need your own Instagram account. And so if you don't have one, you'll want to go up and sign up for one yourself. Now, one thing that I actually really like about how Instagram has approached this is that they are defaulting certain settings for teen accounts. So without even connecting a teen account with a parent account, which is called supervision, and that's what I'm going to talk about in step 2. But even without that, just with your teen having their own Instagram account with the correct date of birth between the ages of 13 and 17, Instagram is going to put in place a lot of these default sort of parental controls for their accounts. Things like making their account need to be private rather than public. Now, there are certain variations between the 13 through 15 and the 16 and 17 age ranges. Most of the default settings apply across the entire range of ages. However, with regard to 16 and 17-year-olds, those accounts won't necessarily default to like private accounts, for example. But in step 3, when I talk about sort of configuring the settings as a parent for your teen, we'll go through more of the details on that. So once you have an Instagram account and your teen has an Instagram account, step 2 is then connecting your accounts so that you as a parent can see their teen account settings for setting up the various parental controls. Now, Instagram calls this supervision. And the way that you do this is you're going to go into your parent accounts, into the settings, and there's going to be a section for connecting with a teen account. You're going to go into that, and you will be able to either, if you already follow them, you'll see a list of accounts that you follow that you can choose from. If you don't, you can email or text message a link to your teen that they can use to approve the connection to your account. Once they, sort of approve and verify on their end, your teen, then their account will become connected to yours, and you'll be able to go into the settings of your parent account and see the teen account and be able to go into the various parental controls. So the various things that you can control for your teen's account is stuff like the privacy setting, whether the account is private only or whether it's public. Again, Instagram will default all accounts for 13 through 15-year-olds as private. But you can also control the setting once your teen's account is connected to yours through supervision. Now, there is a content setting that you can control as a parent. There's 3 different levels. And by default, Instagram is actually going to set this at the middle level, which is sort of content for ages 13 plus, which they say is similar to like a PG-13 content rating if you're talking about like movies or TV shows. Now, I would recommend, especially if you're starting your younger teen out on Instagram, to maybe start with the more restrictive setting, which is the limited content setting, and then eventually maybe graduate them to the older. I would recommend erring on the side of more caution until at least you get more comfortable with what types of content they're actually seeing. There's also a setting for nudity protection in messages, which will help to filter out any potential nudity that Instagram senses in messages that are being sent to your teen's profile. Now, make note that at least as of right now, when I'm recording this video, Instagram indicates that this feature only works through the mobile app and not when accessing messages from a computer, for instance, through their website. And then there's a setting for potentially offensive comments or offensive message requests. This can also include like messages that are kind of seem more spammy. And Instagram, they'll use their AI or whatever systems they use to try to determine, that within messaging and comments. But by default, they're actually going to filter those types of comments out of the posts that your teen's account has access to. It's also going to filter those types of messages out of your teen's mailbox, so they won't actually see those things. There's also a setting for who they can receive messages from, so that teen accounts by default can only receive messages from other accounts that they follow and not from just anyone on Instagram. And then there's settings for things like tags and mentions and the ability to do remixing. By default, Instagram sets these to only be allowed for accounts that your teen follows through their profile. And then there's also a setting for live broadcasting. It defaults to not allow your teen account to do live broadcasting. And then there's some time limit settings. There's a sleep mode setting and a time limit setting. And this will, by default for teen accounts, Instagram actually sets both of these. It sets the time limit setting, or the sleep mode setting. It sets between the times of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then for the time limit setting, it sets an hour as sort of the default. And it has 2 things that you can choose from as a parent for your teen account. You can choose to have it either, sort of message your teen to let them know that they've reached the time limit or that sleep mode is active, or you can have it actually block Instagram. So one is, just messages them, but doesn't actually block it. The other setting you can choose is for them to block it. By default, Instagram's just going to alert them, but not actually block it. But you can set that to be more restrictive if you prefer. And then there's also one more setting for location sharing control. So it defaults to not share your teen's location via Instagram, but you do have access to be able to control that and enable it or disable it. Next, there's some things that you can see from your parent account when you look into your teen account's settings. And so some of the things that you can see is who your teen has chatted with. You can see a list of who they've chatted with. you can see who their followers are and who they have followed, and you can go into each of those accounts and look at what those accounts are and who they are. And then you can also see which accounts your teen has chosen to block. Now, there's some things though that you can't see as a parent, even in supervised connection mode with your teen account. You won't be able to see your teen's search history or the specific chats. So you can see, who they've messaged with, but you won't actually be able to see the specific chats. You won't be able to make posts for them on that show up as them posting from their account. And then you're not able to reset their password. So that has to be done through the teen's account themselves if they forget their password. And then lastly, as a parent, you can see which topics your teen has chosen when they're given a list of topics that they're interested in. So you can see which topics they've chosen that they've expressed interest in through Instagram. And then you can also see a graph of the time that your teen has spent on Instagram day by day. Now, you can see this even if you don't have the time limits set up. And another thing I'll say about time limits is you may have other things that you use for setting time limits and setting like sleep mode blocks for your kids. So for example, I use Apple Screen Time for their mobile devices where I can set time limits for Instagram. I can set blocks for Instagram. So you don't necessarily need to use Instagram's own functionality for that. But even if you don't have those configured, you can still see the graph of the time that your teen account has spent on Instagram. Now, I would recommend if you don't use any other way of sort of limiting the time spent on apps, then the built-in Instagram time limit and sleep mode settings are a great option, and I would recommend that you leave those on and that you configure them appropriately. I hope you've found some use in this walkthrough of Instagram teen accounts. I hope you've gotten some knowledge about how you can use it with your teen. If your teen is on Instagram or you're thinking about allowing them to be on Instagram, I strongly advise you to use Instagram's teen accounts with your teen. This will help you better manage what they're doing on social media, the time that they're spending on social media, and it'll be better all around. Let me know in the comments if you've used Instagram teen accounts, what you think about it, if you will use it with your kids. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for watching.